please give a warm welcome to executive producer Doug Urbanski and Academy Award winner Gary Oldman. Gary. Well, thank you.
We got Sophia there.
We got Sophia in the front row.
Yeah.
Doug, right off the bat, thank you for being back. You were here for The Darkest Hour with Gary, so welcome back.
We were. We decided this was one of the best theaters in the world to watch anything in. You have,
oh, my goodness.
Right? You have True Darkness, which how rare is it to see True Darkness? And you have perfect picture and sound, so we love coming back.
I'm going to quote you on that. One of the things I love about this show is the continuity of a single vision of a director. Like, the whole series is directed by one director, and I know that you were instrumental in that choice, weren't you?
Who told you this? There was a lot of blood on the floor about this very point.
It was his idea.
Yeah, the idea being that we want you to watch a 6-hour movie with a cliffhanger about every 50 minutes or so, because it's bingeable and you want that one DNA imprint. And it was a very hard thing to convince everyone, including after we had shot the first 2 seasons. They were still pushed back about not having one director for 6. And it's a big job for a director. It'll take over a year out of his life between prep and post and all that.
Explain to us the pushback. Why would there be pushback about having a singular vision?
I think it's control is part of it. Yeah,
And they thought that, someone wouldn't be up to it.
Yeah.
And that it's too much responsibility, and that it would exhaust them. And then Doug said, well, they used to make 33 Ironsides a year, 130 episodes, and it's a certain thinking that's partly to do with it. It's set now, and this is what we do, and that we get a director to come in every 2 episodes, and we switch it up, and it's hard to move someone from that.
And we felt that you could see that on every other show, whether it was Breaking Bad or House of Cards. You had all these different directors coming in, and the show had its DNA, but it meant that we could say season 1 was our Born Identity season. Season 2 was more the Tinker season. We sort of able to give each one its own authorship.
Identity. Yeah.
And then it means that the most stressful thing in the world that you ever have to do is to hire that person, because you're stuck with that person for a long ride. If you make a mistake, the patient is dead. But we've, I think, solved it so far.
And it's also nice for the actors that we get
the continuity
with someone who.
Doug, I love the fact that you mentioned that season 1 was all sort of James Bond, Born Identity. Season 2, this sort of Tinker Tailor, John le Carré quality. Talk about the season 3, which to me was all about corruption.
Well, I'll tell you 2 things, and Gary can tell you his thing. You've just seen episodes 1 and 2. In episode 1, you see something you've never seen before. 2 times you see a naked guy taking something out of food. You have the guy with the lentils, and you have the guy with the ice cream. So that we have that. But season 1 is the getting to know characters. Season 2, bad guys want to kill Grandpa Cartwright and Lamb. Season 3 is the MacGuffin. They're all chasing this thing. We don't know what they're chasing. We're going to find out. Does it really matter? The ride is the thing.
Gary, I'm obsessed with your character. We always feel like he doesn't give a fuck about what's happening, but we know that you deeply care about everything. Tell us about playing that line of
Well, he's ostracized himself. He's now at this sort of severance, if you like, this side show, which is Slough House. He has no time for bureaucracy and the bullshit that comes with it. And that's why he's so dangerously delicious, because he doesn't play by the rules that are inside the MI5 mainframe, that Taverner's terrified of him. You know, people are terrified of him because he sort of plays outside he's outside the box. Correct. In that, and the whole persona of flatulence and not washing his hair and showering off as much as he should.
Eating, he's constantly eating.
It is partly a charade, so you can't fully understand him or second guess him. It's an act that he gives the illusion that he's got his feet up on the desk and he doesn't really care. Mm-hmm. When I think he probably cares more than most. Mm-hmm. And there's certain standards. He comes from, I suppose, the golden age of the Cold War spy craft, and cannot truck with incompetence or mediocrity. A mediocre agent is a dangerous agent. Mm-hmm. To himself and to others. How, Lamb's not tech savvy because he comes from an analog world, and Ho is pretty good around a computer, so he sort of tolerates him and sort of puts up with him because he really, probably more than anyone in the team, he really does need. He needs Ho, because he's a computer savvy. But, he gets sent these people and they come in and he pretty much soon weeds them out. I was just talking actually with that man over there, is Elliot, who was an ex-Marine. And he was a drill sergeant. But you got to weed people out. You get 120 recruits, and people are going to fall by the wayside, know. So Lamb rides them hard to really weed out these people. He has a soft spot for River, I think, even though he despises the grandpa, and quite rightly. Mm-hmm. But I think he sees potential in River.
Correct.
So that's why he sort of rides him a bit and pushes him. It's a wonderful part to play. Taverner is vain of the new era, really. She's manipulative. She's ambitious.
The Kristen Scott Thomas character.
All of those things. And that is wonderful because he can poke fun at it. Mm-hmm. And she can't do anything about it because he knows where the bodies are buried. So he goes, "You're going to come after me," not giving anything away. But there's an exchange that we have in season 5 that we're currently shooting right now, and they're prepping season 6. So we just. But season 5 is...
Big surprises coming. Big.
The scripts are killer.
Yeah,
It's
pun intended.
Really good. It's a really good season. And there's a brief exchange I have with Taverner, and she wants to take me to task. And I just say, if you want to go to the mat, then be my guest, because I got so much dirt on you, I've started an allotment.
When I introduced the film, the show, I mentioned that you're one of the greatest actors working today.
That's
by
very
far.
kind of you.
Do you find it exciting, challenging to I'm thinking, you mentioned earlier that he puts his feet up on his desk. It's the quiet moments that I'm blown away that I actually see him working.
That's what he's thinking when he's dozing. That's when the mind is working. He's not really asleep. Sometimes he's asleep.
But is that, how do you, but you convey to the audience that he's actually doing that. Is that a challenge for you to infuse those quiet moments?
Not particularly, because the writing is so good. If you've got good writing, then it will. I've often called a good script is what I call your map of the world. It's your map, and it has all these signposts. And if it's really good writing, then all you have to do is just follow the signposts. I mean, Mick Herron came up with these characters in these books. Mick Herron came up with Lamb. You know, he is out of the imagination of Nick Herron. So all I have to do, and the scripts are pretty faithful to the books, so then all I have to do is follow the signposts as an actor. And if you've got some talent, you know, some intuition, then you're gonna find your way. Yeah. You know, so good in those. I know what I'm thinking in those quiet moments because I have a Bible, I have a map, and the writing is everything. A good writer will tell you when to slow up, when to slow down, when to speed up, slow down, when to put the foot on the gas, take your foot off the gas. If you have instinct, then you read out and you don't read in. It will give you. Am I correct in that? The old Stella Adler.
Yeah, it was Stella Adler Stella hated people imposing ideas on scripts, and she said always read out, never read in, and she would scream at people about that.
Well, but you're awfully modest. You bring so much heart and soul into this character. Doug, vis-a-vis the turning the genre of the spy thriller upside down, you know, you actually redefine what a spy thriller.
You know, it's funny. You have Bond, you have Austin Powers, right? You've got all these different types of spies, and you've got from Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, you have George Smiley. And I'm embarrassed to say that we never thought of what I'm about to say. Some clever critic recently wrote, they called your character George Smelly, which and none of us in 4 years had thought of this. It's one of the best things. But, you know, there's a thing. You create a frequency, and you try and find a frequency where you're going to be both serious, deadly things are going to happen, people are going to die, but you're also going to have this irreverency. And Mick Herron, I think he's a cynic about the system, about the world, about government. I think he thinks it's all falling apart. And I don't want to speak for Mick. Mick will tell you himself. But you find it in his writing, and he's had fun with vanity and ambition and all these things, and he's cynical. So all we do is service the material. He recently they asked him to edit John le Carré's letters because he's now, I'll tell you a quick story. Before the show premiered, Mick Herron called me up and he said, do you think I could get Gary Oldman to go to a Waterstones book signing for my books? We're trying to sell some books. And I said, Mick, Apple is a global company. In about 2 weeks, your show will be all over the world. There's about 280 million people who have access to Apple devices. I said, you're not going to need any more book signings. He said, but my publisher really wants it. I said, your publisher's old times, small potatoes. And sure enough, it happened. The show went, and he started selling millions of copies around the world. And it's good for him. We love our characters, by the way. Every one of them. What's her name? Standish is a favorite. Ho, I don't want to tell you which of them stay and which don't, you know, some don't make it, obviously, but no one's come. We have a lot of fun. You at the end of this season, I don't know if any of you have finished season 3. You have. Oh, there's a lot of heads saying yes. Then you know at the end of season 3.
No spoilers.
No spoilers, but you know that Taverner's set up to now take over First Desk. Watch. That's all I can say.
And we have a new head dog.
Oh, because what's his name is?
Yeah, because Duffy's gets a big slab of, as you know, he gets a big slab of concrete around the head. So,
follow-up question, Gary. One of the things I find fascinating about the show and your character is that we're used to seeing this episodic serials that characters start growing and change. Lamb does not change, and he reacts. He's alive, and he reacts to whatever is happening that is changing. But he doesn't change. He's
No, the die is set with Lamb. That's, I mean, I just find it great fun to play him, but in the books he doesn't. Normally you would have a character who, I don't know, they have cathartic moments and they see the light or whatever, a character progression or an arc. It's fun that he's reacting to all the new situations. Mm-hmm. Everything else changes around him. But
find, as an actor, you find comfort in the fact that he's as you say, the die is cast, or you would prefer that?
No, I think he's incredibly well written, and I haven't had a need or an urge to. I mean, we do change things. We do improvise sometimes, and we'll come up with a line in the moment or on the day. The writer, Will, is often there on the set every day, so it's nice to have the writer there. And we have suggestions and things. We get scripts. I get them pretty early and have a suggestion, and also the fact that because we're now 4 or 5 seasons in, Will is writing for Saskia and the way she plays Standish, and Chris Chung, who plays Ho, and myself, so he can hear our voices and how we would play a scene or deliver a line.
Correct.
So he does sort of migrate a bit away from the book, but I don't feel any need to. I'm not feel I'm missing out or lacking anything. I mean, he is who he is.
Yeah.
May I say something about this,
I think
Roger?
that's the attractiveness about him as well, that he's old school. And so he comes from a certain generation. He's not PC. He is who he is.
But we find him constantly reacting to what's happening. Also, slowly we start finding out things about him, his relationship with Catherine. And
yeah, it's piecemeal, though. It comes out a lot. There's a big revelation in 5 that we find out we find out a little more about what it from the Cold War,
correct,
from Berlin.
Yeah.
But but you're given these. Mick, he can't even tell you who he is. I mean, he wrote the books.
Yeah.
You try and pin him down. He doesn't. I asked him lots of questions at the very beginning of the process, and he said, "I don't know really. I don't. Well, what's he? So where he lives, which you see a glimpse of at the beginning of season 5. So we do see him outside the office, but we as a team were in discussion. What is the house like? Is it a house? Is it a flat? Does he have a lot of books? What would he read? Are
Is
there
it
any
clean?
posters on the wall? And
You're gonna see. You're gonna see.
does he have a vacuum cleaner? I think the TV's probably still black and white.
You were going to say
I wanted to
something.
say something about this idea of characters changing or developing. Hey, Gary hit on it. You're going to get new information about their relationships and where they've been and things like this. But we are movie people, and before that, Gary and I were theater people. One of the fascinating things when you were plunged into the television world, other than trying to say to everyone, let's have one director, you start looking at television successes, and the audiences don't want a lot of change. Columbo was on for 39 years, as was Mad Men. I actually was sitting in production. I wanted to know what changes happened in Mad Men. And if you typed it into YouTube, you'd learn every one of the 8 seasons, Don Draper has a pitch to the client, Peggy has her sexual questions, Pete is still a schnook. We want to cozy up with our favorite characters, this one being a schnook, that one being that, Columbo, or Lamb being the smartest man in the room, which does inform how we cast, how we write the other characters, and to some degree, how the directors even shoot. So change for change's sake that's where you jump the shark, but honing in on what you're supposed to do and doing that, hopefully do it with a degree of perfection is what we aim to do all the time.
Yeah, I think that's, how many people here where I take it we all like long form, but you're with people, you're with these characters, and then suddenly you go, what the hell happened to this show? I've invested all this time in these people and this show, and whereas season 4 gone. I mean, it's like, and I think that's partly where we are fortunate that we have a very good template.
And by the way, sometimes Jay Hunt, who's the very brilliant head of Apple Europe, who's our boss, she will call up almost always about episode 5 of any season. She'll say, episode 5 is very talky. Well, we have the data. Episode 5 is always very talky. And then she'll say, well, episode 6 is too much action. We say, well, we have the data. That's our customers are like. We're trying to make a really perfect martini where it all does what you want it to do for your ride, whether casting, with the writing, and all the rest of it.
But you won't be betrayed.
No.
If you stick with slow horses, you won't. We will not betray you. It's got it.
You'll betray everybody else, but not the audience. Doug, it's so vivid in my mind, season 1 and 2. The first season, they were in their office and filing, and now progressively there's more action. And by season 3 is like gangbusters. Was that something intentional?
Well, the books are the first template that you have, so you're going with the books of Mick Herron in the order. The thing is that in season 2, which some of you might have seen, you have Mr. Oldman eating Chinese noodles with Jack Loudon in it's a master class in performing and acting. We don't have that in season 3. Season 3 is other hijinks going on with our favorite characters. But what was your question?
It's about the progression of the fact that at the beginning they're just in their offices filing, and then there is, by the season 3 is nonstop action.
Yeah, he takes them out of the book as he goes along. 5 that we're doing right now has a whole other different flavour. Harkens back, I think, more to season 2.
A sort of more John Le Carre world.
Yeah, so we do follow what we try and follow what Mick has put down. I mean, in a way, that's the advantage that we have, because if you watch, as I was saying earlier, you watch a show and then suddenly it's like, who is this? What's happened to this character? Where's the show gone? And I think that it speaks to writers who are in a room and they're in season 5 or 6, and now they're going, God, what do we do? What do we do? I know what, if we reveal that, oh yeah, so she's married him, but what if we say that he's really gay, and that then that happens and this happens, and then someone from the previous, his relationship turns up, and then, but he's from a circus and he's a juggler, and you know what I mean? And all of a sudden you can just see these writers in a room scratching their head going, what do we do with the show? Where do we go with the show? And I think we're lucky that we've got the book.
In season 6, we've done something interesting. We have actually taken the director, or I like to call him a filmmaker, and we've put him in the writer's room. And everyone in television in LA says, you've done what? Well, we're movie people. It's not uncommon that the filmmaker would be with the writers because he's going to shoot it. And the guy is talented. He's the same fellow who did season 4, which you've not seen. He has his own language of shooting. When you land on somebody who has their own language of shooting, You don't have a car pull up with a crane shot and someone getting out, knocking on a door, it's over the shoulder and all this. You have to see that. He's got his own language, and it's wonderful to see. And likewise, we have a lot of attention paid. You've seen it here a little bit to the soundscape, as much as if you find any running and jumping music here, I will take the blame, because I will murder anyone who puts running and jumping music in the show. And we have had a lot of it, haven't we, that they try and put. That's always the first pass. It's like watching an episode of 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. And we have to go back, and it's pages and pages of correction. But we somehow get there.
When I introduced tonight, I use anarchic humor, and I call them all fucks, and the deliciousness of your character of insulting everybody, and the dark humor, anarchic humor. Can you tell us about you dealing with that anarchy?
Well, when I read a scene, and I think to myself, like, for instance, Jack Loudon, who is
River.
Plays River, and I just think, oh, I can't wait to see his expression when I say that line to him. I've got something coming up where it's something like, it's a shame you're an idiot, because, with a bit of effort you could have been half-wit. I mean, they're fantastic, being able to just, I think maybe, I mean, I know he's the boss, and he's the boss, and he's got these underlings who are, he has nervous breakdowns to induce and all of that, he's mean to them. But I think sometimes, has anyone, you must have had a mean boss. I mean, I know I've known some directors all the heads are going like that, don't you? And you just want to say to them, fuck off. You know what I mean? And I think Lamb just, there's no, he doesn't care about being judged.
Well, he gets the worst boss award.
But he's
he does care.
probably still very much the best agent that they've had.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. He is psychologically, intellectually, and physically, when it comes to it, when he needs to be, up to the task.
So the insults are
They're deflection. You're not going to get to know me.
And a way to manipulate also.
I'm not going to let you in. You think I'm this person, but who knows? So, and then they just get so used to it. They come into my office, they go, oh, right, fuck off. And then they leave. What's he going to he's going to tell me about parking tickets or some such nonsense. And I know that they're going to engage. My underlings, the little never runs, will mount their own little private op.
And what would Stella Adler think about the fart acting in the show?
I think she would think it was extraordinary. No, that's obviously sound effects.
But you don't do the sound on set.
No, we do that.
You just do the flinching.
I do the flinching, and season 5 is a 3-fart season. I got a cracker. Stay tuned.
There's a lot of jokes that I'm sitting here, I can't repeat, that we go through my mind about this, about the person who was actually in charge of which particular sound effects go. That's a whole.
I mean, we do have emails back and forth, and I even complimented Saul on the one in the car, and I said that it was robust. I said it has to be. It's leather seats. It's a Rolls Royce, and And we do actually, we have emails, exchanges talking about the frequency. It's important that it's in the detail, isn't it? God is in the details.
And this is what Stella would love, you see. Stella would love this.
Yeah.
The specificity
Yes.
of it. Trust me, it's my favorite part. It says a lot about me. It's my favorite part about Jackson Lamb.
I mean, he's a burper too, but I'm not particularly. So my wife looks at me like, going, "Come on," no, but I.
And is it the same coat every season? It's just the
Well,
stains just get piled on?
Yeah.
That looks like that coat could walk on its own without your help.
It hangs on its own in the truck. They have a special place. They're not allowed to wash it or anything. No, it's got cigarette.
Last question, because we have to wrap it up. Your passport, when you're getting the flight fund, and your passport says David Cornwell. Yeah. And this is, John Le Carré. Why is it David?
It's Le Carré's real name. Yeah.
And is that something we'll find out later on in the seasons?
Well, we are in that we're in a world where Le Carré is a writer of Tinker Tailor.
Correct.
We live in that world. Obviously, Mick is a student of him, reveres him and influenced him. And then it was, I wasn't really sure who came up with it. It may have been James, and it may have been Mick. But I remember someone said to me, we're looking at the name on a passport and we see it very briefly, sort of in passing, and we're thinking of putting, your pseudonym, one of your names would be David Cornwell. I said, "Oh, it's fantastic." Yeah,
well,
great. So
the magic of Apple TV, you can freeze and look.
It's a little, what they call it, an Easter egg, or
Easter egg,
someone who's in the know will see it. Yeah, we do a few things like that. There's I don't know whether you see it ultimately at the end of the day, but you remember the thing about the dog, the Union Jack bulldog, which is in Control's office in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. So,
And also, in this season, you have Sam West, and you've all seen season 3, so you have Sam West and Jackson in the restaurant, and they get to say a line to each other that they said to each other in Darkest Hour, because Sam played, what's the line he says to you, where he says,
it
and we've taken it for Darkest Hour, a quote from Winston Churchill that Sam says back.
But he,
a little joke.
No, it's, I say to him, who said, I said, who said you cannot reason with the tiger when your head is in its mouth? Oh. And then Sam West as what's his name in the show? Judd. Says Churchill.
I would be remiss to ask you, since you mentioned Darkest Hour, Kristen Scott Thomas, she was in Darkest Hour.
Yeah.
And now the most delicious scenes in the show are when you and her are together.
Yeah.
Tell us about working with the Dame, Kristen Scott Thomas.
The Dame.
Well, she should be.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, we had a really good time working together on Darkest Hour. So it was, I think it was an inspired piece of casting her as Di Taverner. So it was lovely to just sort of reconnect with her, and we get on famously.
And who knew that she could drop comedy lines from a 30-story building and have them land in the mud, just perfectly.
Yeah.
She's surprised us all.
I mean, I've said it before, but the people on the show, I feel, I just turned 66 not long ago, so I feel very grateful and privileged to be in a job. You know, to be honest with you, I'm in a terrific show with a great pedigree, and but we got producers who don't bicker, and they're all pretty much on the same page. You know, fighting a battle like getting one director instead of, tensions get high, but we solve it. We've solved it, and now and the proof of it is in, you know, in the proof of the pudding is in the eating of it, and there we are. But we've got producers who really care about the show and get on. We have an incredible crew that comes back year after year after year, same camera operator, sound mixer, same boom operator. I mean, we've got makeup, hair, same people come back. And we've got a cast who it's just an absolute joy to be in their company and to spend time with them. They are the nicest bunch of people that you could ever hope to meet or work with. So I feel like I've, you know, get the Oscar. I mean, I feel like I've landed. Do you know what I mean? To wake up in the morning knowing that you've got a great scene and really good material, but then to go in and think, oh my God, I've got a terrific scene with Saskia. I can't wait to see her. You know, we spend time away. You have a hiatus or a break from it, and you go back, and really for the first time, we've been saying to each other, the schlep between London and, you know, getting on another plane, we actually look at one another and say, you know, I'm really looking forward to getting on the plane and getting back to the UK and seeing all these people again, because it's sort of like we've become like a real family. Yeah, so it's real.
Talk about looking forward to seeing people. So I was so looking forward to seeing the two of you back here in Santa Barbara. And
anytime.
And it was, please, we'll have
Let's make something up and we'll come back.
Yeah.
Just think of something.
You guys you heard him. Yeah. What a privilege. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody.